Hello everyone. Today we're going to learn about factoring quadratic trinomials. And these are not just quadratic trinomials. These are also factorable quadratic trinomials. The reason why I emphasize the word factorable because not all quadratic trinomials are factorable. They cannot be factored. Some can be factored while others can't. It's impossible. So we're going to use different methods. So in this video, we're going to focus on factorable quadratic trinomials and the fact that they are factorable. How can we factor them? All right. So let's start with the first example. So here we have x squared plus 7x plus 10. The first step here is you have to know the number beside x squared. Okay? What's the number beside the x squared? Now, as you can see, there's no given number. Nothing at all. Like, it's it's like as if it's zero anyway, because there's no number beside it. Actually, there is. Okay? And that is 1. All right? X squared is just the same as 1 times x squared. Okay. By the way, I use the dot as a multiplication sign because if I would use x or cross, you might be confused whether that x is a variable or a multiplication sign. All right. Either way, going back to my point. So if you see x squared, it means it's 1 times x squared. So the next time you see a x squared, but there's no number beside it, it means it's 1. It's just that it's invisible. All right. So, okay, that's number 1. Okay. Number 1 step. Know the number beside your x squared, which is 1. Now, why? Why do we need to know? Because if there's a number beside the x squared, there are like two ways on how are we going to factor it out. Okay. So in this case, the number beside x squared is 1. So this way, we're gonna do the easy way. Okay? Why? Because here, once your number beside x squared is 1, the next step here is we're going to focus on the constant term. Or basically a term that has no variable, just a number. Okay? Which is 10. We're going to focus here. Now, I want you to think of two numbers. Okay? Two numbers. Two numbers where if you get the product or if you multiply them together, the answer is 10. And if you add them together, the answer is positive 7. Again, I want you to think of two numbers where if you're gonna multiply them together, the answer is 10. Okay? If you multiply them. And if you're gonna add them, the answer is 7. So for me, I would select 5 and 2. It's 5 and 2. Why 5 and 2? Let's start first by multiplying them together. What is 5 times 2? 10. See? Now what's 5 plus 2? 7. Positive 7. Okay, that's it. Now that we found these two numbers, what are we going to do? Okay, let me just erase this line. Let me just draw it like this. Okay, because I'm going to write down. So what are we going to do? Okay, wait, let me just copy this for a while. Wait, give me a second. There you go. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to make two groups of parentheses. Okay. Two groups of parentheses. Then put the x on the left of the parentheses on each group. So we have x and x. That's it. And then the numbers that you picked. Okay. As I was saying, we're going to bring these two numbers here, the one you selected, and then you're going to put them on each of the parentheses. So we have 5. Since it's positive 5, so put plus 5. And as for 2, it's also positive, so you have plus 2. And that's it. Done. That's it. Easy. Okay? Now we're going to have another example. We have x squared minus 9x plus 20. So, what's the first step? Check the number beside the x squared. So here, there's no visible number. So it means the number beside it is 1. Okay, it's 1. Now, the fact that we have 1 as the number beside x squared, what is the next step? Focus on your constant term, which is 20. Now, you're going to think of two numbers. Two numbers where if you're going to multiply them together, the answer is 20. And if you're going to add them together, the answer is negative 9. Remember, I said negative 9 because there is a minus sign beside 9. So what are the numbers? It's negative 5 and 4. Okay. Negative 5 and negative 4. Now, let's check. Maybe I could be wrong. Negative 5 times negative 4. So the answer is positive 20. Okay, that's it. Now, you may be wondering why is it positive? Because if you're going to multiply a negative number by another negative number, automatic, the answer is positive. Okay, so the result is 20. Next, let's try adding them. Negative 5, wait, hold on. Negative 5 plus negative 4. Okay, now this one, we can rewrite this as negative 5 minus 4. Why? Why do we do that? Why does it become minus 4? Okay, just in case. Right? We have plus sign and we have negative. So it's like you're multiplying positive and a negative. What's the result if you multiply a positive and negative? The answer is negative. Okay? It's negative. So meaning, if we have plus minus, it's like you're multiplying positive sign and negative sign, in which the result is negative. So with that, we're going to replace this one into negative sign or minus sign. Okay, so that's why we have negative 5 minus 4. Then we're going to add them together. We're going to have negative 9. And that's it. We have negative 9 as our result. Okay, we're done. So what are we going to do now? Okay, so let me just copy this. I'm too lazy to write it down. Okay, my bad. Okay, so there we go. So in that case, what are we going to do? So the next step, put two groups of parentheses. That's it. Okay, then here, what are we going to do? Just simply put the x on the left part of the parenthesis and put each of the numbers on their own parentheses. Okay, so we have negative 5 here, so we will have minus 5. And we have negative 4 here, so we have x minus 4. And that is our final answer. Go. Now, how about this one? So in this third example, you could see there is a difference between this one and from the previous examples we did. Because on the first step, what did I say? Check the number beside the x squared, right? So in our previous example, the number beside x squared is 1. But if you're going to take a look closely in this example, however, it's not 1, but rather 2. So what are we going to do? Do we have to do the same steps as what we did before? Well, yeah, but we have to do something about it first. Okay? There's like a basic way on how we do this. But to get it to the direct point, like let's cut to the chase basically. I'm gonna teach you the technique that I always do when I was a high school student. And that is called slide and divide. Okay, slide and divide. Okay, that is what we're going to do. You will apply this method if there is a number beside x squared that is not 1. Okay, that is not 1. Okay, now, what are we going to do? First, you have to slide the number 2 to 15. So what will happen then if that's the case? All right. So that case will have, wait, hold on. Give me a second. Let me just copy this one for a while. All right. So going back. So yeah, you're going to put 2 beside 15. All right. So here you will have x squared plus 11x. Wait, hold on. 11x plus 15 times 2. That's it. Then, what are we going to do? Multiply 15 and 2. So that would give us 30 as a result. Okay, now take a look. Look at the number beside x squared. It's 1, right? I told you, there's no number beside x squared, it's 1. So now, what we did before is what we're going to do here. Okay? Which is, because we have a number 1 beside x squared here, we're going to focus on a constant term and find the two numbers that if we're going to multiply it, the answer would be 30. And if you're going to add them, the answer would be positive 11. So let's do it. There are two numbers we can apply here, which is 5 and 6. Proof. 5 times 6, 30. Positive 30. And 5 plus 6, 11. Positive 11. See? So in that case, we're going to use 5 and 6. So the fact that we found the two factors, or two numbers, I mean, what are we going to do next? If you remember, make two groups of parentheses and put x on the left side of the parentheses. Okay? Then, these numbers, we're going to put them on their own parentheses. So we will have x plus 5 and x plus 6. Now, are we done? Nope, not yet. Why? Because what we did earlier is that we slide, right? We slide and then we factor out. Now, the last step is we're gonna divide. Divide by what? Divide by the number you slid, or slide, I mean, which is 2. Okay? Now, here's the question. Okay, we're gonna divide by 2, right? But what exactly are we going to divide by 2? So the fact that we have already factored this, right? Now, the number here, you're gonna divide them by 2. Okay? So, what is 5 divided by 2? Of course, you can't divide 5 by 2. You can, because 5 is not divisible by 2. Since it's not divisible by 2, just put it beside x. So you will have quantity 2x plus 5. Wait, there you go. That's it. Then how about this one? 6 divided by 2. Since 6 can be divided by 2, so the answer would be 3. So you have x plus 3. And this is your final answer. Now we have second to the last example. We have negative 3x squared minus 7x plus 6. Okay, so what's the first step again? Look at the number beside x squared. As you can see, it's not 1, but rather it's negative 3. So what are we going to do? We're going to do the slide and divide method. Okay? So in this case, I'm just going to write it here for the sake of the space. What are we going to do? Slide negative 3 beside 6. Include the negative sign, okay? Include the negative sign. So we have x squared minus 7x plus 6 times negative 3. All right? Then multiply the numbers. I mean this one. Multiply them. So you will have negative 18. Okay? Now, in case you're wondering, how did it become negative 18? Okay. 6 is positive, right? Negative 3 is not positive. So remember, If one is positive and the other is negative, the answer would be negative. Okay? So in that case, you will get negative 18 as a result, right? So you will have plus negative 18. And again, we have plus and then minus. So it's like you're multiplying them together. Positive times negative, again, it's negative. So therefore, we're going to have what? Minus 18. Okay? Minus 18. There we go. Okay, now, there we go. That's it. Now that we have x squared, and then the number beside it is 1. So we can now apply the previous steps we did. Okay? Since the number beside x squared is 1, we can now focus on the constant term. Now, think of two numbers where if you multiply them, it's negative 18. And if you're going to add them, the answer is negative 7. You may think it's 3 and 6, but it's not 3 and 6 actually. It's rather negative 9 and 2. Okay? Negative 9 and 2. Okay? Not 3 and 6. Okay? I'll prove it to you. Okay? Let's just say you pick negative 3 and 6. Okay. Now, if you multiply them together, the answer is negative 18, which is you're correct. But if you're gonna add them, what's the answer? 3. Is it the same as the given number here? No, they're not the same. But if we use negative 9 and 2, yeah. So we're gonna have a good result. So negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. And negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. There you go. Now that you have the two numbers here. So the next step, we're going to have two groups of parentheses, then put x on the left of the parentheses. Then after that, put the numbers on each of their parentheses. Now, are we done? Nope, we're not done yet because we slide 3, but we have to divide the number by 3. Okay? No, not 3, negative 3. Okay, again, because we use slide and divide, and we slide negative 3 beside 6, so that means we're going to divide the numbers here by negative 3. Okay? So negative 9 divided by negative 3, and positive 2 divided by negative 3. So here, negative 9 divided by negative 3, the answer is positive 3. Now you may be wondering why positive. It's just the same as multiplication. If you multiply two numbers together that are negative, the answer would be positive. Likewise, if you're going to divide each other where they have negative sign, the answer would be positive. Now for this case, 2 divided by negative 3, of course you can't divide 2 by negative 3. So if you can't, what to do? Just put negative 3 beside x. So in that case, we have negative 3x plus 2. And that is your final answer.